Hello, this is Alex Calvo Garcia. You're listening to the Iron Hour podcast.
Hi, I'm Barra, and you are listening to episode 51 of season 4 of the Iron Hour podcast, brought to you in association with talkSPORT Fan Network and available on YouTube, Spotify, Amazon, Apple Podcasts, and many other platforms. We are, of course, proudly sponsored by No Film, Best Banks Wholesale, Hole in the Wand, AC Videography and Photography, and now, of course, the George Inn in Barton. And it was a long, long trip down to Cornwall, but one that proved to be well worth it for the fans of Scunthorpe United as the Iron came away with a nail-biting 2-1 victory over Truro City. Goals from Farrell and Beestin helped get the job done, but it wasn't without late drama as Jones pulled off a huge match-winning save near the end to secure all 3 points. Tension, relief, and a very long journey home made all the sweeter with 3 points. Joining me on the panel this week is counsellor and published author Max Bell, a man who can debate and talk about the greatest Scunthorpe legends on page one and still somehow keep a close eye on the council expenses spreadsheet. Let's just hope that the trip to Cornwall wasn't at the taxpayers' expense. It's Max Bell on the Iron Hour podcast.
I mean, all I can say is that all of that information is publicly available, and I am frankly far too boring. People know that I lived just off Roman Road. If a moat appeared in the middle of the road, I think people would notice.
Well, yeah. Well,
what you could get away with in Gaul, I'm not sure would fly down Roman Road, but you never know. I'll bear that in mind.
Alongside him is Marco Puliga, fresh from reminding us all that Italy could still qualify for the World Cup. Of course, he's our resident Italian. We love him. He's not pissed tonight, but he still promises to get stuck into the action nonetheless. It's Marco Puliga. It's the Iron Hour podcast. How are you doing?
Yeah, I don't remember ever saying Italy could potentially qualify for this World Cup because, I'm highly sceptical. But yeah, no, happy to be here again. And it's a nice little streak of Iron wins and me being back on the pod. So yeah.
I have the message evidence to prove it. Now, when it was all booting off in the Middle East and there was talk of Iran being back from the World Cup, you were immediately suggesting that Italy were the highest ranked team. Not yet.
I'm happy to be going in on a technicality. I'm more than happy to take that at the minute, but yeah, under obviously the bad circumstances of a minute.
That would be very Italian, wouldn't it? Like complete Denmark Euro '92 shit.
And you would not write them off winning it.
No, exactly. As the great Homer Simpson once said, the two sweetest words in the English language: default. Default.
We'll see next Thursday. Northern Ireland at home, then possibly Wales in Wales, which I'd hopefully go to. So yeah, good couple of weeks coming.
Let's get back to it then. So looking ahead from one iron to another as we preview the upcoming clash with Braintree Town on Saturday. And of course, this sees our return of Spy in the Camp, the segment which we've not had for 2 episodes now. That's my fault, but it is back this week. And we speak with Braintree commentator Craig Porte to get the opposition view ahead of the weekend's fixture. Plus, we will have an FPL update, although I don't think anything's changed from last week, but it is important to remind our listeners just where Marco sits in the FPL league. We'll have a general catch-up from around the league, plenty more discussion along the way, so plenty to get into. A huge win, a couple of massive moments at either end of the pitch, another Iron showdown on the horizon, and the usual mix of football chat and questionable takes from my panel. This is episode 51 of the Iron Hour podcast, season 4. Let's get stuck into it then. So, Marco, kick us off. Talking points from Tuesday. Goals or saves? What won the game?
Oh, before we start, I know we've got a Spy in the Camp with Braintree commentator. I think a lot of listeners will want the Truro commentator on the podcast. Oh my, that guy was keen. For those who didn't travel, obviously there's quite a few. Yeah, wow. He genuinely made a 5-yard pass look like I put on Twitter, an F1 overtake. Like, he was very enthusiastic, to the point where I was looking forward to hear the summariser's voice every 5 minutes. But yeah, no, look, nothing against him, and he was a very excitable man. But yeah, let's hope the Spy Camp isn't as excitable. But no, look, goals win games. and I think we got the job done relatively early on Tuesday night. It wasn't a game for the purists, especially those who've travelled down. Um, but look, we spoke about Jones on the previous podcasts regarding his decision making. Again, on Tuesday, there were one or two times you sort of cringed and put the pillow in front of your face. But no, look, a vital save late on in the game when we sort of had our backs to the wall a little bit. So yeah, as always, a mixture of both. But yeah, well, both ends of the pitch. I thought we did relatively well on Tuesday, and got 3 points.
Right, let's talk goalkeepers in, because it's been a constant theme throughout this season. It's been a constant theme on the INL podcast. Max Bell, how good was that save?
It was massive. Obviously, as Marco said, in the first half an hour, we looked really good, moved the ball quickly, caused them issues. Obviously, Beestin did score the terrific goal, but in the first 2 minutes, he's missed an absolutely gilt-edged chance at the back post. We could have very easily been out of sight. We might come on to discuss this in more detail, but I thought we missed Andy Boyce when he went off. Actually, we didn't look as defensively strong playing with no centre halves. Who would have guessed it? So if you're going to concede chances, you need your goalkeeper to step up in those big moments, and that was certainly what he did. I think a lot of Iron fans were nervy going into that last 15, 20 minutes. Truro didn't really cause us lots of issues in open play in the second half, I would say, but they did have the one thing that would always strike fear into any Scunthorpe United supporter, and that's a massive long throw. You can defend all of them, but you only ever need one to drop. And I think it was Raquel Pike, wasn't it, who on the turn in front of the away end probably was a little bit unlucky to score. Jones has anticipated it quickly. He's got a way to his left, and he's got a big strong hand to it. So yeah, massive relief. As you say, it's a long trip. Chances are it's the longest any of us will ever do for a Scunthorpe United away game. So just relieved we came back with 3 points.
Yeah, I can't remember Raquel Pike being such a good player, to be honest with you. How decent was he on Tuesday night?
Yeah, looked a handful. The one thing I would say about Truro is that I didn't think they were awful going forwards. They did move the ball. They did look to get men forward, and they did create issues at times for us, particularly. We know that our defending over the last couple of months hasn't been faultless. Their issues are at the back. I'm not convinced that their 3 centre half system desperately works for them. But look, when you make that jump as any side, when you've been promoted to a level you've never been at before, that's hard. So I'm sure that when they do go down, because let's face it, I think Truro are going to go down, that they'll fancy their chances of having another good season in the Conference South next year.
Marco, 7 p.m, Tuesday night, I get a phone call off you. Oh my God, Danny Whitehall's not starting. Now, it's fair to say that was my reaction, because you said, I fully understand this, and I think Farrell is probably going to score. In fact, didn't we have a cheeky bet?
We did have a cheeky bet. Yeah, look. Like I said, I'm sick of saying it now. I think it's a squad game. There's no doubt that we're a lot better side with Whitehall in it. I think Butler's shown a lot of respect still to Truro with that starting 11. But with the options that we do have, especially at the top end of the pitch, I know we're not as blessed in the defence. Farrell's proved himself to be a very good and capable striker. So look, if you can go there and just give Whitehall a 20, 30 minutes, and it's sort of in a phase where it's job done, and I think that leaves us in a really good position. But yeah, again, I know we're talking about Whitehall, but Farrell was very impressive. Not just obviously he took his goal really well, which a diamond of a cross by Denton again. So yeah, look, we're speaking about a lot now. It's the strength up top and our goal scoring, and that's how we're going to win games. But yeah, really impressed with Farrell, and yeah, hopefully, obviously stays to the end of the season. Because yeah, he's a really good option. Something we've lacked in the last season or two, when obviously, say, God forbid, a Whitehall injury, we've had to sort of be makeshift and play Beestin or Carlton in that role. And now we've got to play like Farrell, who can obviously just walk into that system and get goals. So yeah, real positive. Changing a player with a calibre as much as Whitehall and still winning games. I think it's a real positive.
Max, anything unturned that you want to talk about from Tuesday night?
Look, it was good to be able to see us win a game without Whitehall and Roberts starting. We know how reliant we are on them in the final third. It'd be interesting to know because obviously we've had JB on the bench now for the last couple of games, even though I'm not convinced actually he's been fit enough for any contribution. Was Whitehall that? But then he did come on for the last half an hour or so, didn't he? So was it just a little bit of rest and rotation? He definitely went for a number 2 in the first half because the tunnel's right next to the away end. So, look, it was one of those where, and I think Butler was right, points are what matter at this stage of the season. Victories are what matter. Getting the right results, even if you don't play well. So that was particularly pleasing. I am a bit worried about centre half now. Obviously, Boyce went off with a knock. We know what Boyce is like. If he's needed, he'll always try and play with one leg if required. But the sooner that Evans and Bellahune are back and able to play, the better. If you're saying that all 3 of our centre halves are out injured now, theoretically, then the registration deadline's coming up. I know we've had an article about it, haven't we? Go live recently on the pod's website. Is Butler thinking about trying to bring a centre half into the building, even if it's just for short term? I don't know, but wouldn't surprise me if he was thinking about it.
I think you make a real good point with Bellahune. Obviously, I may be looking into it a little bit too much, but at the end of the game, he wasn't sort of in the right attire. He still had like his trackies, his joggers on, and never really looked like coming on. I wasn't at the game, so was he running down the touchline and warming up at all, Max?
He was warming up, but I wouldn't. Nowadays, a lot of the pre-match warm-ups aren't that strenuous anyway.
Yeah, during the game, was he warming up on the sidelines?
If he wasn't very often. I didn't see him.
Yeah, and then obviously, Boyce coming off, you immediately look to the bench and you've got a recognised centre half, JB, and to bring Barrows on, to me, tells a big story that I don't think he's fit yet. So yeah, like I said, a little bit of a plug to all his article today, but if that is the case and he's not ready, and Boyce, look, I know he's been playing not through an injury, but he has been playing a lot more than we thought he would. I won't say it's desperate times yet, but maybe something is needed. So yeah, really interesting to see.
Interesting one. Let's talk about Joe Rowley. So he picked up his 10th yellow card of the season. I'm not going to lie, I've read multiple things that contradict each other. I don't even know if we've passed the deadline or not. Let's hypothetically say we haven't passed the deadline. He's picked up 10 yellows and he'll be suspended. Would you see him being a huge miss for the Iron, Marco?
Immensely. I thought it was fantastic on Tuesday. I think he is, again, we've said it before, he's this season's Sean McAllister. He's one of those players, I think you'll notice seriously when he's not playing. Not just with his sort of calmness and obviously being in front of a back 4, but his overall movement and willing to drive with the ball, which goes unnoticed. He does put you on the front foot and always looks for a forward pass. Yeah, to me, he's in the top 3 or 4 players this season, and yeah, we would definitely notice if he is to be suspended. Yeah, it's a really big loss. But again, that being the case, it's a chance for somebody else to go into the fold and to take that opportunity. Like obviously, e.g. with Westbrook, Ewing seems to have found his front foot again and been really positive. So yeah, competition for places. Just glad it's not a centre half with a suspension or a defender. So yeah, look, teams have suspensions. Your Rochdales, your Yorks will all be going through the same thing, and it's about how you manage it and having the squad to be capable of that. So, but yeah, really, it will be a big miss, no doubt.
And Max, let's talk about some other players from that game then. I mean, Connor Smith. Let's talk about Connor Smith. Let's talk about Pat Jones. Hard to pick. Hard to know really where this leaves us going forward. I mean, you would have thought Jones is our kind of go-to option on the wing. Disappointing again to see Smith coming off the bench and not really having the impact that you would hope for. Another gilt-edged chance he missed.
Yes and no. I thought his anticipation for the chance was good. I thought it was a good save from the goalkeeper, to be fair. I know that on the highlights package, the Truro commentator sort of criticised the goalkeeper as well for the initial mistake. I thought that was quite harsh. I thought it was all the defenders doing, to be honest. He just sort of appeared to not realise he was there. Look, that's the whole thing about having multiple options, isn't it? Is that you can bring different players off the bench. You can then turn to your substitutes and think, right, well, even if he doesn't perhaps have his best game, then he might. So I'm pretty relaxed about contributions so far from all of them. The one thing I would say is that it was probably 3 or 4 moments over the course of the game where crosses were really fizzed into that corridor of uncertainty. And with the exception of the Beestin miss after about 100 seconds, there wasn't a lot of gambling going on. So, you either want that communication with Farrell or with Dausch in particular to get a little bit better, for the wingers to say, right, the ball is going there, I expect you to be there, or vice versa. For them perhaps to look up for just that fraction of a second, and maybe the cross is a little bit of a deeper pullback to the penalty spot, to the edge of the 6-yard box, wherever it might be. But like we've said, I'm just very happy with the win. And if we can get a similarly gritty 2-1 win away at Braintree on Saturday, it will be another worthy trip, because what was it, 127 Iron fans in the away end at Truro. It's a long trip on a Tuesday night. A lot was staying over, myself and Gareth included. So, yeah, massive shout out to everyone who made the trip.
A big shout out to Ben Maidment, who not only made the trip, but then went into work at 9 a.m. on Wednesday morning.
Amazing. But Ben, are you okay? Just checking you got back alive. Yeah, brilliant. But that's football, isn't it? You wouldn't think of doing that for anything else. And I know Ben would be the last fan on earth. It's been years and years since he's missed any competitive game, home or away. So I'm glad he kept his streak going.
I am too. Right, before we move on, last thing to talk about then, Marco. Last week, the fullback in focus was Joe Starbuck. This week, it has to be Tyler Denton, who is arguably having his best stint in claret and blue.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. I've always rated Denton. And look, obviously his first season when Jimmy Dean was here, we knew he was playing sort of through an injury. Hence, he doesn't play those games on the sort of plastic pitches and etc. But no, like you said, I think as an overall fullback at left back, he's been phenomenal. And look, the consistency when he has played, brilliant. And look, you saw that cross on Tuesday evening again. Not only is he solid defensively now, he's coming up with important assists to contribute to the team. So yeah, really happy with Denton, and I'm happy for him because look, he's become a stalwart of the side now. I know Max wasn't his biggest fan, but yeah, look, going forward and defensively, I think he's sort of the all-round package now, and been a really good signing and a good value for him.
So just on Denton, I thought it was a really good cross for the goal. When it was happening live, there was just half a second where I thought it might have been got away from Farrell, but he's taller than you think, and when he's stuck out, his legs have got, yeah. And he's all legs as well. So he's done really well to get on the end of that cross. I think Denton has actually stepped up. I think in a lot of ways, I think he's played better this season than he did last season. And obviously there's been a bit of mix and match, hasn't there? He's played left back, sometimes he's played on the left wing, relatively recently. So I don't mind him as an option on the wing, particularly if we need a little bit of defensive extra down that side. But yeah, I thought he played really well on Tuesday.
Yeah, he did.
What do you hate?
I hate seeing him on the wing. I think it's criminal.
Yeah.
I genuinely think it's criminal.
I don't know.
Oh, come on. Right, we're talking wingers. We're talking, I'll list Roberts, Dausch, Hurst, Jones.
Well, Hurst is crocked, isn't he?
Who am I missing?
Right, Roberts wouldn't play on the left.
I'm talking 6 wingers.
Yeah, so go for him again, right? Let's go for him again.
Okay, just on the left alone.
Yeah, go on, go for him.
Again, is Jones, Smith, and Hurst. There's no excuse for playing a left back on the left wing.
No, I agree. By the way, Hurst is absolutely crocked. Like, I don't think we'll see him again.
Oh, are you telling us something?
Well, I don't think this is an exclusive. I think Andy Butler said before the game on BBC Radio Humberside that Doncaster Rovers have taken over in terms of his recuperation now. So,
Okay, yeah, I'm talking. Look, he wasn't, as you're saying, he's died. He wasn't dead last week when Denton was playing on the left wing.
I don't think crocked means terminally gone.
Yeah, he's with the best win in the world market. He's not a horse that's fallen at the Grand National. Like it's not a jump race, and they get out the curtains and the Tesco lasagna van.
Barra's just got very serious and saying, "You will never see him again."
That was a good line. Yeah, not even in the local supermarket.
Yeah, but look, no, I just think he's so good at left back, and it's just a case of trying to fit him in for the sakes of fitting him in. Yes, you sort of get that extra defensive aspect, but no, it's not for me. I only want to see him at left back, and I think he does that role very well. But look, I'm not a football manager.
Right, yeah. Max is looking at me like, I tell you what, during the 15 or 20 minutes we've been recording, you've perked up. I have indeed. Right, let's move on. Let's talk something else. Let's talk Braintree on Saturday. The other iron, although I've probably just ruined my segue into the segment because I think I say that in the next 10 seconds in this pre-recorded segment. But here we go anyway. I'm pleased to say, despite having an absence for 2 episodes in a row, we do see the return of Spy in the Camp, and it's a fantastic one this week. So here we go. Let's kick us off with our Braintree feature with this week's Spy in the Camp.
Well, from one iron to another, my guest this week is commentator and co-host of the National League Lowdown. I'm pleased to say it's Craig Porte joining me this week to talk all things Braintree. Craig, first of all, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm very good. Thanks, mate. Thank you for having me on. I'm looking forward to it, despite a rather poor form at the moment, but I'm sure we'll get onto that.
It was a little bit Joey Tribbiani in that intro, wasn't it? How are you doing? Anyway, let's get on to football, Craig. Let's talk football. Let's talk Braintree. In the thick of a relegation battle at the moment, currently 23rd in the league and a good 3 points from safety. Of course, goal difference will probably come into it as well if those points are levelled up. How are your nerves? How are you doing?
The nerves aren't too bad because I think a bit of realism sunk into me. In my head at times, we're already down. I think the results in the last couple of weeks for the likes of Brackley and maybe even Yeovil have maybe gave me a bit more hope. But when we lost to Gateshead a few weeks ago, for me, that was the writing on the wall that we're down. So the fact that we're probably still in contention for me is maybe I'm actually looking at it a bit more positively than I was a couple of weeks ago when in my head we were almost down. I think the next week, by next Wednesday, we'll know whether we've got a fighting chance or it is a false dawn. And yeah, it's gonna be tough for us to stay up. But while it's mathematically possible, we'll give it everything we've got, I'm sure.
Yeah, the Gateshead game at the time probably did feel like a 6-pointer, but they have absolutely turned it around, haven't they?
Yeah, and Morecambe are on good form as well. So I feel like we talked about chasing Brackley. I think if we still catch Brackley now, it might not be enough because I think Gateshead or maybe even Morecambe might go past us. They're obviously both gone above us in the league, the 21st and 22nd, with winning games in hand. So, yeah, it's going to be a tough task. And the fact that other teams are hitting promotion winning form, if you look at Gateshead's last 8 games, it's probably not great for us. And the writing might be on the wall that it's National League South again next season. But we've been there a fair few times.
Okay, step 2, we've been there too. Let's talk about the fixture earlier on in the season. So 1-1 draw, pretty odds even. I thought Braintree looked pretty good value for the money that day.
Yeah, for me, it was one of our best away performances of the season. We've struggled away from times. We haven't picked up too many wins. We've picked up a few recently, obviously away at Truro. But the Scunthorpe game, I felt like it was a game of 2 halves. You guys were comfortably the better side the first half, took a deserved lead. And then Steve actually made some positive changes. I think Blackwell came off the bench and grabbed the equaliser. And late on, it looked like it could go either way. But yeah, I think a draw was a fair result. And at the time, it was a very, very good point for us. You guys were obviously flying towards the upper reaches of the table, and we were pretty much where we are now, kind of thing. And that point away, we hoped would be a platform to a little bit more, but it hasn't seemed to be the case.
Has this season gone pretty much in line with expectations, or are you surprised that you are in this scrap?
Yeah. In the predictions, I put us 20th. Now, if you're putting your own team just above the drop, that means you're probably thinking that you could be in there, but you just don't want to put your own team in the relegation zone. One of the lowest budgets in the league. Some players that I think maybe we should have let go in the summer, we didn't. Some players moved on. Kyrell Lisby was probably our biggest success story. He's obviously at Peterborough. I've got no issues with him moving on. But it was when Louis Annesley, Matt Robinson moved down level from us. That's when I'm thinking maybe we're not in a financial position to offer these players what they need for this level. And we signed some players that had struggled at step one previously and step two. And we're heavily reliant on loans, and we haven't quite had the success this year that we did last year with the loan market. We had some excellent additions last season. Jermaine Francis was one for us. Kyrese Lisby. Henry Gray in goal was a success. Granted, that's goalkeeper this year. Mason Terry's probably been player of the season, so that's one loan that has worked out. But yeah, I'd say we are where we probably should be. But I look at so many games and I think we've drawn 6 games at home 0-0. If we could have just picked up 3 points instead of 1 in a couple of them, we'd be in much a better place. But yeah, I think we're probably where we are on merit. To be fair, I've got no real complaints.
You mentioned lots of names there of transfers, either good or bad. Let's talk about some players then that might make the difference on Saturday. Who should Scunthorpe fans look out for?
That's a tough one for me. John Akinde can always be a handful. He's not been as prolific this season. Last season he was fantastic in the latter stages with the 2 Lisby twins running off him. Jermaine Francis. We haven't seen the best of him, but then I don't think he's had the best of players around him compared to them ones we've mentioned. But the last couple of weeks, he seems to be a little bit better, so he can always be a nuisance. I'm sure every Scunthorpe fan's played against John Akinde at some stage and has had memories of him bullying centre halves, so he can always be an option. Lewis Walker is our top scorer. Granted, I believe that's only 7 goals, so it's not exactly flying, but he scored midweek. Scored last weekend, and that was a fantastic finish late on to get us that draw at Morecambe. But I'd argue our standout player this season has been Mason Terry, the goalkeeper. I expect him to be busy again on Saturday, and he does make some fantastic saves. My only issue with him is sometimes he parries things back into play, and that's where goals lead. But yeah, he's been our player of the season. But the one big blow for me this season was the loss of Marley Marshall Miranda, who's gone to Boreham Wood. Granted, the last game he played for Boreham Wood, he got sent off, so I think he's in the bad books there a little bit now. But he was vital to our midfield. He'd turn the ball over and he'd drive 20, 30 yards with it. And I'd argue we haven't replaced him, and that's probably our biggest mistake this season, I say, is not replacing him.
Yeah, I know when I come in from football and like the missus says, how was the game? And I say the keeper was the man of the match. Sugar, right, one of them then. So I think when your keeper's the player of the season, I think that does talk to something that's probably going on.
I think he's won the supporters player of the match 14 times this season. So that if you see that, you probably expect us to be in the relegation zone, unfortunately.
Yeah, for sure. Right, 2 questions to finish us off then. First of all, Craig, I'm after a scoreline prediction for Saturday's fixture.
I've gone quite a cagey affair. I've gone 1-0 to you guys, unfortunately, but I do feel this is one we need to get at least a point of. So if we can start strong, then great. I think we might get a result, but I think the longer it goes, we then have to push forward, and I think we'll get caught, and you guys will win 1-0.
I did think you were going to go 0-0. Were you setting it up with 6 0-0 draws at home?
Yeah. To be fair, all of those 0-0s have come when I've been on commentary, and I'm not actually on commentary on Saturday, so there should be goals.
Okay. Well, I was going to ask one more question, but I will just ask briefly about the commentary then. So talk to us about that. What is it like following Braintree?
Yeah, it's been good fun doing the commentary. So last year, the manager that got us promoted into the league is actually my boss at work. So he's obviously we constantly talked football, and he said, the club are looking for someone to commentate on a game tonight because the normal commentators are ill. And I commentated on it and loved it. And now there's 4 of us that do it between us, kind of on a rota this season. So I haven't got the Scunthorpe game. I've got the next one I've got is the Carlisle game, but it just gives a different perspective to the game. And I watch a lot of the games on DAZN and all those kind of things. And the biggest takeaway I've got is that sometimes they get a little bit carried away because they're home fans, which I am. So I always try, I'm sure people, if they've listened before, might disagree, to bring a very neutral element to it and be very kind of positive about the away team, which has been easy at times because most teams have beat us this year, to be fair. So, but no, it's been a good experience and one that obviously I hope I can continue. But the coverage does go down a little bit if we get relegated. So we'll have to see what the future holds on that one.
Final question then. You've set me up nicely for it. I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you think you're stopping up?
I don't want to disappoint the Braintree fans because I'm going to retweet this and hopefully they listen as well. But I do feel like we are down this season, unfortunately. I think if Gateshead and Morecambe hadn't picked up their form, I think we could claw one team back in. But I don't think we're going to get more points than Gateshead now. And I don't think the likes of Yeovil, Sutton, Aldershot will get drawn into it too much. So yeah, unfortunately for me, I do think we are getting relegated this season. Hopefully they let me back in the stadium on Saturday after that.
Okay, then, panelists. That was great. That was fantastic. We heard there from Craig and, of course, Marco, another commentator on the Iron Hour podcast. We've really gone all out this season in terms of improving our guests, the calibre of guests on the Iron Hour podcast. A big thank you to Shah for once again recommending me. A very top tier, high caliber guest, and of course we will see her back next week when we preview the Rochdale game. Let's turn our focus to Braintree then, Marco. What do you want to talk about? What's getting you going for this one?
Again, it's sort of similar to treat it as Tuesday night. It's a team that are struggling. Only one win in the last 5. It's an opportunity to go down there and get another really important 3 points, like Max said. Whether that's a good performance or whether that's a 1-0 scrappy win last minute, who cares? It's and again, on paper, I'm not saying it will be. It looks like a really good opportunity and one that we really need to take coming up to the crunch end of the season.
Yeah, that's an interesting take. I think. Look, let's look at this one then, Max. I was speaking to my friend earlier, and I said at this point in the season where we are, with no chance of winning the league, with no chance really of dropping out the playoffs, it would take an absolute calamity. I think 70 points will probably do it, but I think we probably want another 4 just to make absolutely certain. But because of the interesting dynamic of the playoff format in non-league, it really does matter, and we really do have to go for that 3rd place, don't we? So every game really matters at this point, wouldn't you say, Max?
I would. I don't think 70 points will be enough. I think Halifax will get that many in their last sort of 8 games or so. We're 11 clear and goal difference. So if Halifax won 4 out of the last 8, but we're nearly there. At an absolute most, you're looking at 4 points, 2 wins, and given that we're playing the side who are second bottom in the table, you have to say that Saturday is a massive opportunity for that. Although I do think Braintree are in a different position to Truro. I think Truro are down. I don't think Braintree are there. 3 points adrift of Brackley, who are 5th bottom, and with the best will in the world to Brackley. As much as I'd like them to stay up, they're going through a real tough patch, aren't they? Yeah. They're taking 1 point from the last 8. They've found it really difficult since Gav Cowan left for Shrewsbury. So, Braintree have got everything to play for. I do not expect Saturday to be an easy game at all, as it was proved when they came to Glanford Park. They were deserved winners. They got the equaliser they deserved. I thought they did merit the point they left Scunthorpe with. So, our performance, if we want to win, probably will actually have to be better than Tuesday. Even if it's going to be for a gritty, tough win, I'm not convinced we'll get 3rd. I think 5 points and goal difference with 8 games to go is probably a bridge too far. We don't have Carlisle to play. We've got Rochdale to play as well. If you offered me 5th now, I think I would take it. Obviously, the difference between 4th and 5th and 6th and 7th is at that playoff quarter-final stage. I know they're calling it eliminator, but it's a quarter-final, bugger off. You get home advantage, and then you try and get a bit of momentum from that if you can get that first win under your belt under the playoff system. So, yeah, if you offered me fourth or fifth now, I'd very happily take that.
Also, just on speaking about third place, I agree. I think it's important, but Carlisle have got a really good running. They're playing pretty much all those teams. They played last game of the season playing Brackley. Before that, we're playing Truro. They've still got Morecambe to play, Gateshead, Braintree. They've got a really good run in. So look, there's a few mixed in there. Obviously, Boston are in form. They play them this weekend.
Gateshead are in the form of the lot. I mean, that's one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it is they've got to play teams who've got something to play for at the business end of the season.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, Gateshead obviously seem to be having a real upturn in form, just in time to play us in a couple of weeks. But yeah, look, I think that third spot will be hard. I agree with Max, but we'd be stupid to not have that as our aim because I could also see us pushing through it. Look, we saw last year that Carlton goal at Hereford. To me, that's what got us promoted. Without that, I think we'd have really struggled. So, yeah, look, there's going to be a lot of twists and turns. It looks like we're going to be in another playoff mix. And once you're in there, who knows? So, yeah, really exciting end of the season. And whatever happens, we've punched well above our weight. And no, I'm looking forward to it.
Just on the playoffs, I would say, look, there's, you don't have to look at the league table. You can think back to the points. I think there's a clear difference between the quality of the top two sides and the rest of the division. But I would say two things. One, there was last season, York finished second on 96 points, and they were 3-0 down at home to Oldham after 20 minutes. Congratulations, fellas, season over. So, the playoffs, especially at this level, do throw up some really, really weird things. Whoever finishes second, it's going to be on more than 96 points. I think both of them are going to get comfortably 100 points. It's looking like. I mean, the fact that York have scored 100 goals and they've still got 8 games left to play is nuts. However, that I would make, I'll probably look very foolish when they clip this, but I'd be willing to make one prediction, which is that at the minute, it's going down to the last game of the season when Rochdale have got York. If that does go down to the last game of the season, with the title on the line, I don't think whoever loses that will go up in the playoffs.
Oh,
because genuinely, when can you?
Get him into the last season, right?
Yeah, when can you think of a time? The only one I can think of off the top of my head is Liverpool Arsenal '89. Mickey Thomas or that.
Correct.
When was the last time you genuinely saw, right, it's the last game of the season, it's first versus second, stand-up, knockdown fight, to then pick your team up off rock bottom, either Rochdale are going to have chucked it away at home and they'll be devastated, or York are thinking, we've got 200 points in the last 2 seasons and we haven't got promoted. It's going to be a proper punch in the proverbials for whichever side, if it goes to the last game. I accept it won't, it might not if York drop points, etc., etc. But if it does, my prediction is the loser won't go up in the playoffs.
That's a really good point.
I think you're right, mate. I think that, like as mentioned it where you were talking there, Kidderminster last season, when things happen in the way they happen so dramatically, at the back end of the season, it absolutely cripples you or it absolutely lifts you. I'll talk about a positive example of that. Tranmere Rovers, when we got that late equaliser. Let's be right. Let's have this absolutely right. MK Dons, Millwall and Leeds. We had absolutely zero right to go up that season. Zero right. But the way we did it...
We took 6 points off Millwall that season. We beat them 3 times that year.
The reason we did it is because Millwall did us a massive favour and got rid of Leeds. And we only
100%. There's no way we beat Leeds in that final. 100%.
No chance. And then we get the one-off game with Millwall. And then we get MK. And now I know MK actually had an unbelievable season that year. But again, if we finish, say, 5th that season, we don't go up with those 3 teams competing against us. There's no way we beat Millwall over 2 legs or Leeds over 2 legs. It's just not happening, is it? There's a lot to be said for momentum and late charges, and it works both ways.
Yeah,
it can kill you.
And that's like Oldham, obviously last year where we're talking against York. By the way, special shout for Oldham. They are flying again.
Yeah,
I think they are a couple of wins off the playoffs with games in hand, which to me is a positive because I don't think there's much in the top end of this league and League Two, and I think that shows the season that they're having.
Yeah.
So again, another argument for 3 up, 3 down. We're repeating ourselves. It won't ever happen. It doesn't seem to happen, but yeah, no, really good to see the teams coming out of this league doing well.
Just before we turn our attention back to Saturday in the Braintree game, I think, good opportunity to do a bit of an impromptu dive into the league table because last week we piloted something, didn't we, Marco, where we had a little chat about the league and what's going on. So let's just have a quick look at the league table as it stands and some pick out teams and fixtures. So it's been mentioned already, but Brackley really in a spot of bother now.
Yeah, 100%, without a doubt. Look, I mean, the Gateshead are below them. They're on fire. Brackley's next game, York. You can't really see them getting anything there away at York as well.
Just to explain that for the listeners, sorry, so Brackley in 20th, just above the drop zone, but only on goal difference. They're on 37 points level with Gateshead, who are riding the crest of a wave.
Yeah, and look, they've still got Forest Green, ourselves, obviously at our place, and Carlisle away at the last game of the season. It's tough, like Max said. Obviously, the manager leaving him to go to the level above. It's not looking good for Brackley. And again, when them teams below them, Morecambe hitting a little bit of form, and obviously we know they've got good players who are capable, and obviously Gateshead doing well. Yeah, it's going to be a real tough end of the season for them, and yeah, wouldn't like to be involved in that mix at the bottom.
And just looking at the playoffs, then the team that I'm going to talk about, and this will probably catch people by surprise, but it's Halifax. Look at their last 4 results: a great 2-2 draw with Rochdale, a 2-2 draw with Sutton, which I guess is probably drop points, then a 1-0 away victory at Hartlepool, and then a 3-2 victory at home to Boreham Wood. They seem to be timing this right, or have they gone a little bit too early, do you think?
Me or Max?
Yeah, I'll still be you, Marco. You're
look,
resident league specialist.
yeah, no, look. There's always not just the fact I've got it in front of me. Look, it's a case of like I said, there's always one of those teams that sort of steamrolls into the playoffs late on, in that good form, and a lot of the time it's a case of they actually do quite well in the playoffs. So yeah, same with Southend. They're having a real strong period at the minute, but yeah, Halifax definitely knocking on the door. There's not many points in it. I think if Halifax hadn't obviously picked up these last couple of wins in a row, we would say we definitely secure that playoff spot. But the fact that they have got obviously a couple of draws and a few wins in good form just sort of keeps us on the edge. Like obviously we're discussing, we maybe need 4 more points.
Yeah.
And look, it's a case of Halifax doing so well, but yeah, look, the playoffs is there. There's a lot of good teams up there, so yeah, really interesting end to the league, and look, a really competitive National League, and it's been a good watch this year, and it's been good to keep up with.
Last team I'll ask you about, Marco. Only 1 defeat in their last 9 league fixtures. I'm talking about Boston. I'm talking about the uplift they've had since their managerial shift. I think we had a little chat on our messenger chat earlier, and Max has said there's absolutely 0 chance of them making the playoffs, and he's probably right with that one. But probably for them, tinged with a little bit of regret that they didn't go earlier with the managerial change.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with Max. I mean, there's tall orders, and there's that. It's not going to happen, I don't think. But no, like you said, from where they've been and where they were before hiring Hurst, they'll consider it being a good season, and I'm sure they'll be looking to kick on next year with Hurst at the wheel. And yeah, but I think playoff talks probably out of the window. But yeah, good to see. Obviously, is that our local side, a local derby?
Yeah, it's a long derby, that.
Staying in the division, although giving us a tonking the other week. But yeah, good to see. Obviously, them staying up.
All right, before we get back to the fixture then, Max, I'll ask you one last question. You've already said whoever finishes second, you don't fancy them to go up via the playoffs.
If it goes to the last day,
yeah, sorry,
goes to the last day, maybe different.
Got you. So let's take that team out of it. Who's the one team that's keeping you up at night with regards to the playoffs, and who could probably do a number over us? Who are you worried about, other than the obvious?
Based on the fact that they're the next cab on the rank and their performances against us, it would be Carlisle. Because those games are about doing what it takes to win and winning gritty and being able to keep clean sheets in good moments. And I often think as well the playoffs are, but even more when it's one-legged, don't lose the game.
Yeah.
Don't fuck up, particularly defensively, because the job will be done. You make one mistake. You make one mistake from a set piece. Congratulations, season over. You haven't got. Oh, it's all right. We'll get him at home in 3 days' time. We'll do him in the second leg. No, that's your one chance. And in terms of the side who across their 2 games against us, I thought made the fewest mistakes were Carlisle. And even when I think of York and Rochdale, are they a better side? Yes. But in their performances against us, I thought Rochdale and York made more defensive mistakes than Carlisle did. They just had such good quality in the final third. They could overcome that. They could compensate that. But I think of our second and third goals away at York, for example. The dodgy underhit back past the penalty, and then the hitting them on the break in the 99th minute or whatever it was. I'm not sure Carlisle concede those kind of goals. Certainly not against us anyway. So, if it does go down to the last day, I think that they'd be who my fiver was on.
Fair play. I think it was Ryan Middleton who once said to me, the thing with the playoffs is a bad 10 minutes and your season's cooked.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think of under Alexander, I think of the second leg at home to Millwall. That first leg is probably still to this day the best defensive performance I've ever seen from any Scunthorpe United side ever. To get out of Millwall with a 0-0 draw there was magnificent. But the 10 minutes right at the end of the first half and at the start of the second half, you concede 3 goals in the second leg, you're fucked. So, Ryan's bang on there.
Right, let's turn our attention back to Saturday, back to Braintree. I'll ask you a question before we get onto the predictions, Marco. Starting lineup, Farrell or Whitehall?
Oh, it depends if Roberts is back in.
Okay, elaborate.
I think if Roberts is fully fit, and I'm talking fully fit, not up to the eyeballs and injections fit, I would go Whitehall.
Did I hear Butler say that Roberts wouldn't be available for this game?
I'm thinking. I thought it was 2 weeks. Oh, this will be the second week. So
I think I heard him say pre-Truro that he would be out for both these 2 fixtures.
Yeah, I'm thinking it was 2 weeks. So look, if Roberts isn't there or nearly full fitness, which it doesn't sound like he will be, it's going against everything in my body. But I think I'd go Farrell.
Okay, just talk us through that then. So what are you seeing there?
I think he's looked really impressive. Look, he's not had as much game time as Whitehall. He's maybe fresher legs. He's got that physical aspect. He looks like he's got pace.
Yeah.
And look, it's competition for places. I know, obviously, Whitehall got dropped on Tuesday, but if you're dropping a striker...
Was it dropped, though, or was it...
It could have been injury. Like you said, it could have been fitness.
Rest and rotation when we're playing Saturday midweek a lot.
Yeah. It means the same thing when that person scores, though.
Yeah,
it might not be a drop-in, but he's come in, he scored.
If he's come in, scored, played really well, what is that saying to the rest of the team if he then gets dropped? Again, but look, Butler owes no strikers nothing. It's football. It's ruthless. If he thinks Whitehall's a man for the job against Braintree, then look, I would not be surprised if you see either of them in, and I'm not too fussed, whichever one it is, because I think they're both very capable. But yeah, no, it will be interesting to see. But again, it's what we've been crying out for, because we are only a Whitehall. Previously, we've been a Whitehall injury of being absolutely fucked. So yeah, look, I know Carlton obviously came to the top last season, but we can't be relying on that all the time. So yeah, it's really good to have 2 strikers,
particularly as he is now playing for Kingston.
Yeah, exactly. And again, scored again at the weekend. I don't think there's any Iron fan who begrudge Carlton having a going on
again midweek. Scored again midweek as well.
Midweek, so yeah, again, and having a really good season. So yeah, happy he's doing well. Obviously, House scoring goals. So yeah, look, them 2 up front. I think again, it sounds really boring, but rotation is key, and it's going to be the difference between us competing in the playoffs and being hopeless. So, yeah, get Whitehall back fully fit. But until then, yeah, I would start Farrell.
Just before we go to the predictions, Max is going to say, give me some thoughts. Give me some.
Yeah, I disagree. If Whitehall is 80% fit, he starts. He's the big game player for me. There is nobody I would want more, that I would trust more to deliver up the goods when it's required.
Against Braintree?
Yeah, I think so.
I get what you mean. If it was a player final, I'd understand. But I think similar to Truro, I think when you've got a fully fit Farrell, then you can afford to give Whitehall that opportunity to come off the bench.
But then realistically, when you're 1-0 down at half time, and we've started, with the exception of Truro, we've started a lot of games quite poorly recently, then you have to turn to your bench and go, right, you're coming on. Look, I'm a big believer in that if you need results, let's say you've got Eastleigh on the last Saturday and you're mathematically guaranteed to finish in your exact position, it's maybe a different story. I don't think we've got any right to be complacent against Braintree. They deserve their point they got against us at our place. They've got everything to play for this season. And actually, I would think the fact that we're missing Roberts makes Whitehall even more important. Now, you could play them up front together. You could play Farrell, perhaps, coming in off the wing, or maybe playing, 5-10 yards deeper than Whitehall. You could do what we did at the start of the season, probably 2 proper strikers through the middle up front together. But in a big game, in a big moment, there is no one I would trust more than Danny Whitehall.
Yeah. Look, it's so good that we're having this conversation. It's so positive because, like I say, in previous seasons, it's Whitehall or nothing. So the fact that we are having a conversation about having other options, it's brilliant. And look, I agree with Max. Whitehall is in those big situations, in those pressure situations. And look, maybe I am taking Braintree for granted. But no, I just think Farrell's look quite capable and look really impressive, both holding the ball up with assists and goal taking. So, yeah, like I said, I make my only argument, if Whitehall is fit, I would not play him and jeopardise him for the playoffs. That's my only argument.
Okay, so you're saying you're taking him for granted. Let's see if that is true then. Marco, let's have some score predictions as sponsored by the Unity Group. So, Braintree versus Scunthorpe. Marco, what's the score?
3-1. I don't know if we're ever going to get a clean sheet again in my lifetime.
Do we score 3?
Farrell scores 3. No, I'm joking. I do think look, we've been speaking about our depth up the top end of the pitch. The lads will be confident, obviously, off Tuesday's win. I know there's been a lot of travelling and probably not much recovery. I think we'll concede because obviously there's question marks over the centre-backs and the defenders. But yeah, I think we should have more than enough up the top end of the pitch. And again, these teams are fighting for their lives, so it won't be an easy game. But yeah, look, if we're going to compete in the playoffs, it's these are the games we need to be winning.
Matt, score prediction?
Either 2-2 or 1-1.
Which one?
Depends if Andy Boyd starts.
Not group betting, mate.
Yes, both teams to score and a draw, please. If I will go on the basis that I think Boyce will come back, because I don't think we'll have any choice, I will go for 1-1. I'll go for a repeat of the result we got at home to Braintree. I think they have got quality going forward. They've their issues have been defensively a bit like ours, albeit at the other end of the pitch. And yeah, I'm still not totally convinced that we've quite got the zip back that we had sort of, September, October time. But as long as we can get into the playoffs with a little bit of momentum, a draw away from home will not be the worst result in the world.
My prediction is going to shock absolutely nobody, but it is stat backed this week, as we heard in our Spine the Camp segment. Braintree have had 6 games at home this season, finished 0-0. So I'm going for Magic 7. I reckon it'll be 0-0. Okay, that wraps up our predictions then. Let's move on to our final segment of the podcast, which of course is our FPL update. Marco, are you going to give the game away? You're going to give the farm away? What are you planning? What's going on? What's going through that mind of yours as the realization starts to sink in that it might be you?
So obviously there's been no change since our actual last podcast. Obviously Thiago scored for Brentford on the Monday. So yeah, no, look, everything still stands. I will be using some chips in the upcoming weeks.
He's got more chips than McDonald's, this lad. He's going to play them all.
And I did read, so those who have obviously used all the chips or coming to the end of them, there is a surprise chip coming towards the end of the season. I know previous years they did the manager's chip or assistant managers where you got the...
Yeah, you did. You got to pick a manager for a couple of weeks, didn't you, last season? I remember that.
I think there's something similar coming towards the end of this season, so that's definitely one to look out if you need something up your sleeve to guarantee that you beat me. But yeah, no, look, it's all to play for. Obviously, the game starts this week. It's Manchester Bournemouth tonight because this will be going out tomorrow. So yeah, look, really exciting, and yeah, I find myself like Braintree and Truro at the bottom of the table at the minute. So yeah, but again, I'm scrapping for my life, so you would not want to be playing me at the minute. So yeah, look, I'll be making my changes.
Well, I think you're not going to be the only one because obviously there's a lot of sides not playing this week. I think quite a few people will be using their free hit. I don't think that's massively controversial. I know you've been trying to get a bit of help from some FPL influencers, haven't you, Mark?
Well, I thought
we don't mean Tyler Denton.
I've got a couple of friends who have done their whole season with AI, and I rubbished it. However,
have they done better than you?
They are considerably ahead of me. So look, maybe I just need to...
Just breaking on the INOW podcast, computers are smarter than Marco.
Yeah, but that's not football, is it?
No, it's not. Look, I don't,
Yeah, but you
Marco is right.
He is right, and yet he's reverted to type when the pressure's on. When there is actual risk of him coming out holding Andy Boyce's hand, he's gone, fuck my morals, get me ChatGPT. He's there on co-pilot, like, give me that starting lineup now, baby.
Speaking of assistant manager chips, my assistant manager this week will be ChatGPT.
Well, genuinely, I can very honestly say I wouldn't go near AI for something like this.
But neither would I, and I am propping up the league, so...
Look, I wish I could say the same, but it writes half the podcast, so what can you do?
Well, look, you're only, as Gareth has proven, you're only ever a good couple of weeks, or frankly, a bad couple of weeks from that completely changing. Like, I mean, I've got a little bit of a buffer.
You're right. You're safe.
But look, but the risk is so high, you can't be complacent until it's mathematically impossible. Then I'm taking nothing for granted.
Max is putting Whitehall straight in.
And I don't want to upset you, Marco, but Max, I wouldn't say he's giving me actual tangible advice, but he's cheerleading me through this. Every week he's like, "No, you're doing all right, mate. All you need to do is get more points than one of the other two, and just stick in there week by week. Just stick in there."
Do you know? I initially thought Barra was trolling, but then that last bit, I thought, "Oh no, hang on! I remember when I did say that."
Yeah, 3 days ago.
Yeah. Well, the one thing is interesting though, because I was half inclined to play a couple of chips this week, but you can't. They don't let you do your free hit and your bench boost at the same time. No. Just the way the fixtures lined up, I was looking and I'm thinking, might be a bit of value in bench boost this week because like Haaland's taken out, you can maybe spread your money a bit thinner. But the old FPL has gone, nah. You can't do that, I'm afraid. So, yeah.
I don't think
that's going to be my last chip. I'm going to still have my bench boost at some point because we've only got 8 weeks left now of the season.
Yeah,
there's not a lot left.
I'm going to level with you. So I've played. Is it the wild card, the one where you get to swap it for a week?
Yeah, that's the free hit.
Yeah, free hit. I've played that this week.
Wild card is permanent.
Right, and then the only one I've got after this week will be the wild card. That's the only chip I've got.
And the bonus chip. So you're still in good stead.
Because I spunked my triple captain and I spunked my bench boost. So,
I think loads of us spunked our triple captain.
Well, I got away with it, didn't I? Because Declan Rice returned, was it 36 points? I kind of got away with it.
I didn't. I completely... if Arsenal hadn't have fucked it and not kept any clean sheets that week, I would now be clear. But
didn't Gareth get minus points for his cap?
Yeah, I think he did. Yeah, I think he did. And yet he's still above Marco.
Okay. Right, let's quickly just have a look at the big league. So Steve Walters still in first place and is in prime position to get that £100 bar tab at the George Inn, just randomly going down the table. Craig Mallet in the clean 200th on 1,542 points. He took 53 points this game week. Just a little bit further down, you've got Sean Barnard in 229. He's on 1,504 points, and scrolling down, 300th in the league is Corey East with Lockton Koza, and he's on 1,328. Still a lot to play for. It's still tight at the top of the table with Tyler Denton, our very own Tyler Denton, up to third place now. And he is, just quick maths, 25 points behind the leader. So he could still get that £100 bar tab. Right, that wraps us up. I think we're pretty close to an hour this week for once. Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining us once again to the INR podcast. A huge thank you to my panelists, as always, Max Bell and Marco Puliga. Thank you very much. We will see you next week when we preview the Rochdale game and we hopefully discuss 3 more points on the road. Until then, we'll see you up the iron.